talk about sales and profits. If a salesperson visits with a business owner and tries to sell her computers and software that will improve her accounting department, her eyes glaze over. She loses interest immediately. Because she does not associate accounting with profitability, she is the wrong person for you to be talking to. Entrepreneurs are interested in sales and cash flow. They are concerned with communicating with customers and delivering their products and services satisfactorily. They focus on the performance and reliability of what they sell, and they are attracted to revenues, profits, and growth. They're not interested in the internal details of their operations. To sell the very most of your products or services, you must focus your time, attention, and energy on finding out exactly what will cause this customer to buy. The more time you focus on clearly identifying the specific needs that you can satisfy for a customer, the easier it is for you to structure your presentation and make a sale. Selling to retail businesses. Business people who buy products for resale are only concerned about one thing: net profits. If you're selling to businesses who are buying your products or services to sell in the course of their business operations, they're still only concerned with one thing: net profits. They're not concerned with what the product is, they're only concerned with what the product does and how it affects their bottom line. The most important benefit that product or service can offer a retail business customer is an increase in net profits. Selling to larger businesses. Businesses only buy products that help them to improve performance and productivity, cut costs and expenses, or boost cash flow and profits. You must be clear about the most advantageous results that your product or service can achieve for your business prospect in one or more of these areas. What you sell may help the company to cut costs in some area. It may increase or improve productivity. It might enhance the performance of either equipment or people. Perhaps your product helps the customer to get greater sales or increases buyer satisfaction. If you can convince a business prospect that what you are selling can make or save time or money in excess of what you are charging for your product, you can make a sale. This is your key job in selling to businesses. Emphasize the ultimate benefit. Once upon a time, a woman in one of my seminars who was selling office automation systems said to me, "I just can't seem to get appointments. I call them up and tell them that we do office automation consulting, and they always tell us that they are not interested." She told me that because of her company's experience, they can usually save their clients a good deal of money if they have a chance to examine their facilities and make recommendations. I asked her exactly how she went about approaching likely prospects. She said, "I telephone and I say, 'Hello, I'm Betty Dean from Office Automation Services, and we'd like an opportunity to come in and show you how some of our products can increase your efficiency and the smoothness of your administration.' But they always say things like, 'No, thank you, I'm too busy, we don't have the time right now, we can't afford it, we don't have it in the budget,' and so on." Reword your approach. This sales professional was making the mistake of trying to sell on the phone rather than just getting an appointment to sell. I suggested that she try prospecting a little differently. The next time you make an appointment, call up and ask to speak to the person in charge of administration. When you get through to him or her, say these words: "Hello, my name is Betty Dean and I'm with ABC Company. We've developed a process that can save you 20 to 30% of your office administration costs. It would take me about 10 minutes to show you how it works, and you could decide for yourself if it's the sort of thing that you're looking for." She told me later that this simple change in her approach enabled her to get all the appointments she needed. Her sales doubled and tripled. She was soon making more money than she had ever earned before. Talk about what they want. The reason for this result, which thousands of salespeople enjoy once they understand this principle, is simple. People are not interested in office automation products, computers, servers, wireless communications, cell phones, or anything else. Business people are interested in making or saving money or time. They are interested in getting better results and increasing profit. There are only two ways that a business can increase its profits. It can increase its sales and revenues, holding costs constant, or it can decrease its costs, holding revenues constant. Whatever you are selling, you must describe it in terms of how it either increases revenues or cuts costs or both. If you're talking to someone who's in charge of administration, he is interested in cutting costs. If you're talking to someone in marketing or sales, He is or she is interested in increasing sales and resulting income. If you speak to the person who owns the company, he wants to improve the bottom line. You must always talk about your product or service in terms of what the customer wants, not in terms of what you are selling. How does he get paid? Here's the key to selling products or services to people in business. Ask questions about what the person does and what results he is responsible for. What are the key performance indicators of her job? What does she get paid for? What results is he expected to achieve for the company? How is she appraised or evaluated by her superiors? These are key questions to ask and find out the answers for. As we said before, people always seek improvement in their conditions. They will only take action on an offer if they feel better off as a result. In business organizations, people will only approve the purchase of a product or service if they feel that it will improve their personal positions in the organization. For example, let us say that you are promoting a sales training system and are talking to the sales manager who makes the decisions in this area. The entire focus of your presentation should be on improved sales performance rather than improved profitability. The sales manager is not rewarded on the basis of profitability, but on the basis of the salespeople. Focus on the benefits that this specific prospect will personally enjoy rather than general benefits that have no effect on this prospect's results or rewards. Business versus personal benefit. Sales experts often differentiate between a business win and a personal win. A business win is what the company gets as a result of using your product or service. A personal win is how the individual will benefit personally when your product or service is installed and working successfully. People in business will not buy unless they see that there will be measurable benefits in both areas. Take the time to identify how the prospect will be better off personally in higher income, greater convenience, or even additional prestige and respect from other people in his company. These can be the key factors that trigger the buying decision. Uncovering basic needs. The key to conducting a basic needs analysis is to question skillfully and listen carefully. The very best salespeople dominate the listening and let the customer dominate the talking. The more you ask questions and listen patiently and attentively to the answers, the more the customer will open up and talk to you. People think about themselves most of the time. All day long, no matter what is going on, people are thinking about their own problems and concerns. What is most important to each person is on the top of his mind. When you ask questions and listen carefully, you trigger these thoughts and concerns. They then come up in the conversation. The Freudian slip. In psychoanalysis, this is called a Freudian slip. Psychologists have found that if you allow a person to talk about himself freely, eventually he will slip. He will blurt out what he is really thinking about at the moment. The job of the psychologist is to create the kind of environment where the patient feels comfortable expressing himself openly and honestly. In a way, you are a traveling sales psychologist. Your goal is also to create a comfortable environment with your personality. You ask good questions and then listen closely to the answers. You lean forward, nod, smile, and make no effort to interrupt. Use open-ended questions. The best questions to ask to open up a conversation and get more information from a prospect are called open-ended questions. These are questions that begin with a pronoun or adverb, words such as what, where, when, how, who, why, and which. These questions cannot be answered with a simple yes or no. They require a more expanded answer, which gives you a greater opportunity to understand the true needs of the prospect that can be satisfied by your product or service. There's a rule that says telling is not selling. Only questioning is selling. It takes no creativity to talk about your product or service. It takes a good deal of thought, however, to phrase your information in the form of a series of questions from the general to the particular. Today, people do not want to be sold. They may want to buy, but they don't want to feel that they're being sold. The moment a prospect feels that he is being pushed to make a certain buying decision, he shuts down and loses interest. The person who asks questions has control. As a rule, the person who asks questions has control. The The individual who's answering the questions is controlled by the person who is asking them. Whenever you ask a question and listen attentively to the answer, you are controlling the directional flow of the sales conversation, which is as it should be. Whenever you're talking in response to a question from the prospect has taken control of the conversation. If a prospect asks you a question, rather than answering automatically, which most people do, pause, take a breath and say, "That is a good question. May I ask you something first?" In other words, you acknowledge the question, but you then ask a question of your own and take back control of the conversation. When you do this a couple of times, it will become so natural and automatic that the prospect will never even know what happened, and you will be back in control. Position yourself properly. The very best salespeople today see themselves more as consultants and advisors to their customers. As a consultant, your job is to help the customer solve his problems with what you are selling. The very best sales consultants focus all of their energies on identifying the most pressing problem that the customer has that their product or service can solve. He then concentrates all of his efforts on convincing the prospect that he will definitely get the solution that he most wants. Position yourself as a friend rather than as a salesperson, as an advisor rather than as someone who just wants to make a sale. See yourself more as a helper than anything else. Take the time to fully understand the prospect's needs and then to help the prospect to understand how and why your product or service will satisfy those needs better than anything else. Learn and teach. Position yourself as a teacher. When you ask questions, you learn the customer's needs. When you talk, you teach the customer how he or she can most benefit from what you are selling. When you approach every sales situation as a friend, an advisor, and a teacher, you'll dramatically lower the stress involved in competitive selling. You will radically reduce the likelihood of failure or rejection. Both you and the prospect will feel more comfortable and relaxed. Pause and listen. The sale takes place with the words, but the buying takes place in the silence. Many salespeople speak too loudly and too fast because they're nervous. They are uncomfortable with silence. They feel that they have to fill every single moment with some wise comment or observation on their product or service. But this is not the case. When you are asking questions and advising the prospect regarding your product or service, be sure to allow moments of silence in the conversation. Allow the customer to reflect on and digest what you are saying. Don't rush. Be calm and relaxed. Allow the sales process to unfold at its own speed without pressure or urgency. This creates the very best mental state for the customer to make a buying decision. Present your idea as an improvement. People are funny in some respects. They want things to get better and yet to stay the same. This is especially true in selling and in buying a new product. Very few people want something completely new. Somehow, if it is brand new and untried or untested in the market, it is too risky. It might not work. You might lose your money. This is why most companies are defined as late adapters. They wait until the product has proven itself before they start to buy it. The way to deal with this natural resistance when you're selling a new product is to describe it as more of an improvement than as something new or different. Explain new features as advancements in the technology, as forward steps, as developments that your company has added to make it even better and more useful for your customer than before. Tell the truth. Customers want the simple truth about a product or service. They want honest information about how it can help them improve their lives and businesses. At the same time, they resist and resent any kind of high pressure. The more you relax and focus on the needs of the customer and helping him to satisfy those needs, the more relaxed both of you will be. The more you concentrate on explaining the simple truth about what your product can do for the customer, the easier it will be for the customer to buy. Quality is not enough. Many salespeople get stuck on the subject of quality. Their main argument for buying is that they are selling a quality product. But quality is never the primary reason for buying anything. Quality is a logical argument. People buy things emotionally, but quality is always based on logic. What is more important than quality is utility. When a person says, "My product is the highest quality machine in the business," it doesn't matter. The only thing that the prospect is interested in is, will it do the job for me? Will it do what I need done? Is it adequate for my purposes? You can say that a Rolls-Royce or a Mercedes is a high-quality automobile, but if all you need is a car to go back and forth to work, you don't need to buy one of them. Quality is not an argument. Quality and price comparisons. The only time you can use quality as an argument is when you are comparing your product at a higher price to another product at a lower price. You have to show the prospect that there are definite reasons why he should opt for higher quality rather than lower price. You have to prove that the customer will be much better off with your product because it is of higher quality than he might be with another product of lower quality, even if it's cheaper. If you're selling a snowmobile to an Alaskan, quality performance is a more important argument than price. If he drives the snowmobile out on the polar ice cap and the machine breaks down, he's going to freeze to death before he gets back. In this case, the cost of higher quality is more than justified by the benefits. If you're selling a vehicle to someone who's going to drive it across the Sahara, it's very important that it be a high-quality vehicle. If it breaks down in the Sahara, where there are no people and no water, the traveler will die before he gets help. Explain why your quality is important. If additional quality is not necessary to get the job done for the customer, then it is not an important benefit. In explaining quality features in your product or service, you must always explain how they directly benefit the customer. The customer must see the direct relationship between paying more for higher quality and getting back more as a result. All customers ask the same question in their minds: so what? Whatever you say to a prospect about your product or service, imagine that he is looking at you and saying, so what? What the customer really wants to know is, what's in it for me? What is the benefit to me of the feature that you are explaining? Why is this particular quality improvement so important to me? Make sure everything you say to a prospect about your product has a definite benefit in it for the customer, and make sure that the customer clearly understands this benefit. Suitability comes first. The product you sell must always be the most suitable for what the customer needs at the time before quality enters the equation. An example of suitability before quality is the popularity of Japanese automobiles. Everyone knows that they are well made and they last for several years. Because they sell at reasonable prices, they tend to be ideal and appropriate for a large number of drivers. They also happen to give good fuel economy. And in addition to this suitability factor, they are of good quality. But the quality always comes after the appropriateness and the utility have been demonstrated. This is why it is so important to ask questions and identify the needs of the customer in advance before you begin explaining why your product or service is the ideal one for him at this time. Everything counts. In selling, one of the foremost principles of all is this: everything counts. Everything you do helps or hurts. It adds up or takes away. It moves you toward the successful conclusion of the sale, or it moves you away from it. Nothing is neutral. There is a halo effect in selling and in all human relationships. Prospects assume that if one part of your presentation or work is of high quality, the rest of your product or service is probably of high quality as well. One good impression often enables you to create a halo of quality and professionalism, and everything counts. Your appearance counts a lot. In this respect, your personal appearance and grooming extend to the quality of your product itself. Most of the contact that your company will have with a customer will be with you personally. For this reason, the way you appear and behave is a critical factor in the buying decision. It satisfies the prospect's need for assurance. A whopping 95% of the first impression that you make on a customer is determined by your clothes. This is because, in most cases, your clothes cover 95% of your body. When you are well-dressed, properly groomed, shoes polished, and looking professional, the prospect unconsciously assumes that you are working for an excellent company and that you sell an excellent product or service. Further, When you are punctual, polite, and fully prepared, you make a positive impression that spreads like a halo to everything you do and to the product or service you sell. On the other hand, if the salesperson is late, unprepared, and poorly organized, the customer immediately assumes that what you see is what you get. He or she takes for granted that the company is second-rate and the product or service being offered is of poor quality. And all that comes from clothes and appearance. The best companies. The very best companies have the best trained and best-looking salespeople. Companies like IBM and Hewlett-Packard interview prospective salespeople several times to be sure in advance that these are the right people to represent them in a competitive marketplace. They take prospective salespeople out to dinner to see how they use their utensils and how they handle themselves in social situations. They meet their families to assure the positive or negative dynamics between and among spouses. They interview these prospective employees both individually and in groups. They know that an enormous portion of the buying decision is going to be determined by the person who is actually selling the product. Identify the basic and secondary needs. Be able to identify the basic and secondary needs that your product can satisfy, and then demonstrate this to the customer. You do this by asking questions skillfully and listening carefully to the answers. Sooner or later, the prospect will become interested by asking you questions about what the product does and how it works. This becomes your selling opportunity. For example, in selling computers and software to businesses, amateur salespeople usually spend a good deal of time talking about all the different functions that their equipment will perform. But the customer doesn't care. He wants to know if the product will pay for itself and how long it will take before it pays for itself. The customer wants to know how certain he can be that the product will pay for itself. He needs to know if this is an intelligent design decision or not. Put him in the spotlight. Instead of thinking about yourself, focus all of your attention on the customer. Since you can only think about one thing at a time, the more you focus on the customer rather than yourself, the more relaxed and confident you will become, and the more positive and animated he will become. Whenever you start to feel tense in a sales situation, immediately ask the customer a question about himself or his business, and then listen to the answer. Imagine that you are in a darkened room with a customer. There's a single spotlight on a swivel above the customer's desk. This spotlight is voice-activated. Whoever is speaking causes the spotlight to swivel around and focus exclusively on him. So who is supposed to be in the spotlight, you or the customer? Since the customer is the most important person, the spotlight should be on the customer most of the time. Whenever the customer is talking and replying to your questions, the spotlight is on him. Whenever you are talking about him and his needs, problems, or objectives and requirements, the spotlight stays on him. The instant you start talking about yourself, your product, your service, your company, or your life story, the spotlight swivels around and focuses on you. The customer is left sitting in the dark. The more the spotlight is on him, the greater the possibility that you will make a sale. Keep the spotlight on you and your company, and the likelihood that he will buy becomes less and less. Customers buy benefits and solutions. Customers don't buy products, they buy benefits. They buy solutions to their problems. They buy ways to satisfy their needs. So again, focus all of your attention on the customer. Ask questions such as, what are you doing now in this area? How is that working for you? What are your plans for the future in this area? If you could wave a magic wand and have the perfect situation in this area, how would it be different from what you are doing currently? What would you have to be convinced of to go ahead with our product or any product? Remember, the person who asks questions has control. Reasons for buying or not buying. In every sale, there is a key benefit that the prospect is seeking. This is the one thing that the prospect must be convinced of before he can buy. Your job is to uncover this key benefit and then to convince the customer that he will enjoy this benefit if he buys your product or service. At the same time, there is a key objection to every sale, the major reason that the customer will hesitate or decide not to buy. It's absolutely essential that you uncover this key objection and find a way to answer it to the customer's satisfaction. Focus on the 20%. We spoke about the 80-20 rule a bit earlier. In terms of buying your product or service, the 80-20 rule applies as well. Fully 80% of the buying decision will be concentrated on 20% of the benefits that you offer to the prospect. Sometimes the 90-10 rule is in effect. 90% of the sales decision can be based on 10% of the features and benefits of your product. Your job is to find out what they are. If you talk too much about features and benefits that are in the bottom 80% of concern to your prospect, you'll actually hurt your chances of making a sale, even if your product is the best in the world. In the bottom 80% of reasons why the prospect will buy, they will not convince him to go ahead. But if you can focus all of your attention on the top 10 or 20% of benefits that your prospect will enjoy, and convince him overwhelmingly that he will get these benefits from your product or service better and faster than from any other choice, the sale becomes much easier. The hot button close. This brings us to one of the most powerful of all closing techniques. It is called the hot button close, and it's used over and over by the highest paid salespeople. It is quite simple. As a result of asking questions and listening carefully to the answers, you finally ascertain the hot button, the leading benefit that this customer seeks in your product or service. You then concentrate all your energy on convincing him overwhelmingly that he will get this key benefit. The success of the hot button close depends on your ability to discover the prospect's most important reason for buying. You then repeat it over and over. Concentrate on selling that one main point. Do everything to convince a potential buyer that he will get that one benefit that is decisive for buying action. Bring the whole decision to hang on that one question. Press the hot button over and over. How do you uncover the hot button? Simply ask, especially when the prospect is hesitating or holding back. You say, "Mr. Prospect, if ever you were to buy this product at any time in the future, what would cause you to buy it at that time?" And then remain completely silent. When you make it a theoretical question, the prospect will often say, "Well, if I was ever going to buy one of these products, I would have to be convinced of the..." And he or she will tell you the big reason. Like a Freudian slip, it will often fall out of the prospect's mouth. You are then charged with convincing him that he will get that benefit if he goes ahead with your offer. Fast, cheap market research. Here's a powerful exercise that can double your sales in a very short time. Make a list of your last 10 customers. Phone each of them and say these words: "Mr. Customer, I just wanted to call you and tell you how much I appreciate your buying this product from us. How is everything going? Is there any way that we can help you?" The customer may or may not ask you a question or have a problem with the product or service. If he does, though, promise to take care of it immediately after you get off the phone. Then ask, "Mr. Customer, may I ask you a question? You could have purchased this product or service from another company, but you bought it from us. Could you tell me exactly why you decided to buy from us rather than from someone else?" This is a powerful market research question. Remain perfectly silent. Let the customer think about it for a few seconds before he replies. Don't interrupt. The great discovery. Here is the remarkable discovery that you will make. If you call 10 previous customers, probably 80%, 8 out of 10 of them, will give you the same reason that they bought from you. Very often, you were completely unaware that this was the real reason for the purchase decision. Whatever the answer, write it down. From that day forward, whenever you meet with a new prospect, be sure to tell him, "Most of our best customers say that the reason they decided to buy from us was..." The hot button. Is this important to you? The flowering cherry tree. There's a story about a real estate agent who takes a couple to show them a house. The house is not in particularly great shape, but as they pull up in front of the house, the woman looks past the house, and in the background there's a beautiful flowering cherry tree. She immediately says, "Oh, Harry, look at that beautiful flowering cherry tree. There was a flowering cherry tree in my backyard when I was a little girl. I've always wanted to live in a house with a flowering cherry tree." They all get out of the car and go in to look at the house, but the salesperson has taken note of what the woman said. Harry looks at the house critically. First thing he says is, "It looks like we're going to have to recarpet this house." The salesman says, yes, that's true, but from here, just look, you can see out through the dining room and you're looking right at that beautiful flowering cherry tree. The woman immediately looks out the back window at the flowering cherry tree and smiles. The salesman knows that the woman is the primary decision maker when it comes to buying a house, so he focuses on her. They go into the kitchen and Harry says, this kitchen's a bit small and the plumbing looks old. The salesman says, yes, that's true, but when you look through this window while you're preparing dinner, you can see that beautiful flowering cherry tree in the backyard. Next, they go upstairs to see the rest of the house. Harry says these bedrooms are too small, and besides, the wallpaper is old-fashioned and the rooms all have to be repainted. The salesperson says, yes, but notice from the master bedroom you have that beautiful view of the flowering cherry tree. By the end of the walk through the house, the woman is so excited about the flowering cherry tree that she can't see anything else. The buying decision is made. They buy the house because the salesman had identified the hot button, the flowering cherry tree. In every product or service that you sell, there is a flowering cherry tree. If this is a real prospect for what you are selling, there's something in your product or service that the prospect really wants to enjoy. It's a benefit that the prospect really wants to have. Find out what it is by questioning and listening, and then assure the customer that he will definitely get that benefit if he buys from you. Now, here are 7 action exercises for you. 1. Make a list of the needs that customers have that can be met by your product. Organize this list in order of importance to the customer. Build your prospecting and selling around these needs. 2. Conduct regular market research among your satisfied customers. Find out what benefit your product offered that caused them to buy from you rather than from someone else. Number 3. Determine the most important benefit your business customers are seeking, and then develop a way to explain that benefit in every sales conversation. 4. Identify the most significant gains or losses that your prospects could experience from using or not using what you are selling, and emphasize them repeatedly. Number 5. Dress for success. Buy and read a book on proper business dress, and then follow it so that you look like a complete professional when you visit a customer. 6. Develop a series of open-ended questions that you can use to control the sales conversation and uncover the true needs of that prospect. Keep the light on him by asking and listening. Number 7. Position yourself as a friend, an advisor, and a teacher in every customer contact. Focus on helping and teaching rather than selling. Flora Edwards wrote, "In helping others we shall help ourselves. For whatever good we give out completes the circle and comes back to us." Chapter 4. Creative Selling. Charles Schwab wrote, "A man to carry on a successful business must have imagination. He must see things in a vision, a dream of the whole thing." Creativity is a natural characteristic of all top salespeople. Fortunately, your level of creativity is largely determined by your self-concept, by how you think and feel about yourself when it comes to creative activity. This means that you can increase your creativity with practice until it becomes an automatic and easy response to any goal you set for yourself. Creativity is something that you demonstrate and use all the time. When you are trying to avoid a traffic jam on your way to an appointment by taking alternate roads, side streets, and alleys, you are engaging in highly creative acts. When you are arranging a party or designing a sales presentation, you are acting creatively. If you're attempting to convince somebody of the goodness and value of your product, you are behaving creatively. Even getting dressed in the morning, when you match your clothing, ties, shirts, blouses, dresses, slacks, shoes together to make an overall impression, you are engaging in an act of creativity. Your beliefs become your reality. The sad fact is that most people do not think that they are particularly creative. They associate creativity with writing great pieces of literature or painting great works of art. However, creativity can best be defined simply as improvement. When you improve anything by doing things differently, you are using your creativity, sometimes at a high level. Because of the central role of your self-concept, the more you believe yourself to be creative, the more you will generate creative ideas. In selling, you are essentially creating a business where no business existed before. By the process of prospecting, building rapport, identifying needs, presenting solutions, answering objections, closing the sale, and getting resales and referrals, you are engaging in extraordinary, complex, creative acts that are the wellsprings of our free enterprise society. 3 ways to stimulate creativity. Creativity is stimulated by 3 key factors. 1. Clear goals. 2. Pressing problems. And 3. Focused questions. You must use all 3 as often as possible. The more intensely you desire to achieve a clear, specific goal, the more creative you will be in finding ways to accomplish it. The more determined you are to solve a pressing problem, the more resourceful you will be in coming up with different solutions. The more focused and specific the questions that you ask yourself, or that others ask you, the more innovative you will be in developing answers. You should use all 3 of these continually to keep your mind functioning at its highest level. Practice thinking creatively. In selling, there are several areas where you can increase your creativity with regular exercise and practice. The more creative you become in these areas, the more money you will make. The first area where creativity is important is in prospecting. Your success in prospecting largely determines your income, and your ability to find more and better prospects is only limited by your imagination. The second area where creativity is essential is in uncovering buying motives. You must be creative in questioning to find out exactly what the customer needs and what will cause this customer to buy. This is a real test of your intelligence and brain power. Prospects have automatic buying resistance to any sales approach. They don't want to tell you why they might not buy your product. They know from experience that if you find out what they really want, you will probably be able to convince them that they will get it, and they will be too weak to resist your offering. Discover new product uses. Your creativity is essential in discovering new product uses and applications. You have to use your brain power to discover new ways to use your products and to create sales where no sales exist. Bringing together all the ingredients of a business transaction, including you, your company, the customer, the product or service, the price and terms, the delivery and installation, and everything else, is an extraordinarily creative act and requires creativity at a high level. Your ability to use your creativity to overcome buyer resistance and answer objections is essential to your success. Finally, your ability to close the sale and get the customer to take action is critical in determining how much you sell and how much you earn. Know what you're talking about. Creative selling begins with a thorough understanding of your product or service. The better you know and understand what you are selling, the more creative you will become in selling it. The more knowledgeable you are about why and how your product is superior to that of the competition, the better you will be in explaining it to customers and in overcoming their buying resistance. Read, study, and memorize your product information. Find out what your competitors are selling, what they emphasize, and how much they charge. Become an expert in your market. Become excellent at prospecting. The fastest way to increase your income is simple. It is the key to success in selling. Spend more time with better prospects. This 6-word formula is the recipe for high income in every market. Creative prospecting is essential to your success. It begins with thorough planning and analysis and starts with 3 questions. 1. What are the 5 to 10 most attractive features of your product? 2. What specific needs of your prospective customer does your product satisfy? And 3. What does your company offer that other companies do not offer? Its area of excellence. 1. What are the 5 to 10 most attractive features of your product? Do you know your product's most attractive features? List them in order of importance, then go on to determine the following. Why should somebody buy your product at all? Why should somebody buy your product from your company? And why should somebody buy your product from you? You must be able to answer these questions clearly in your own mind before you get face-to-face with a customer. 2. What specific needs of your prospective customer does your product satisfy? What benefits does it offer? In other words, what's in it for the customer to purchase your product rather than someone else's product or no one's product. Write the most attractive features of your product down one side of a piece of paper. Then write the benefits that your customer will enjoy from each of these features next to them on the other side of the paper. Remember, customers do not buy features, they only buy benefits. They do not buy products or services, they buy solutions to their problems. They're not concerned with what goes into your product, they're only concerned about what comes out for them. Number 3, what does your company offer that other companies do not offer? What is your unique selling proposition? What is your company's or product's area of excellence? In what ways is your company, product, or service superior to anything else available in your market? The greater clarity you have with regard to these answers, the more creative you will be in finding better prospects and making more sales to those prospects. 4 keys to strategic selling. There are 4 keys to strategic selling that you must master if you want to join the top 10% of money earners in your field. These are specialization, differentiation, segmentation, and concentration. Let's take them one at a time. 1. Specialize. With specialization, you determine exactly what it is that your product is designed to do for your customer. You may specialize in a particular result or benefit. You can specialize in a particular customer or market. You can specialize in a particular geographic area. You can specialize in satisfying a particular need better than anyone else. But you must be a specialist rather than a generalist. Many salespeople have built their entire careers by specializing in a particular industry, a specific type of customer, or a distinct geographic area. How could this apply to you? 2. Set yourself apart. Differentiate. In differentiation, you determine what it is that makes your product superior to your competitors. What special benefits does your product offer to your customers that are not available anywhere else? In what areas are your products better than 90% of similar goods or services on the market? In many cases, if the product you are selling is available elsewhere, such as with real estate or life insurance, the special differentiator that you bring to the sales situation is your own unique personality. There is only one person like you in the whole world. Most sales are made on the basis of the feeling that the customer has about the salesperson more than any other factor. 3. Sort out your market by segmentation. The third part of strategic selling is segmentation. Once you have determined your area of specialization and what it is that differentiates your product from your competitors, your next goal is to determine exactly which customers can most benefit from what you do better than anyone else. Who are they? Where can you find more of this ideal type of person or organization for your product? Think of running an ad for perfect customers. How would you describe them? And number 4, focus and concentrate. The fourth part of strategic selling is concentration. This is perhaps the most critical skill that you can develop for success in any area, especially selling. It is your ability to set clear priorities and then to concentrate single-mindedly on only those prospects who represent the very best potential as customers. In some cases, one prospect may be worth 100 times the value of another prospect. The basic rule in selling is to always fish for whales, not minnows. Remember, if you catch 1,000 minnows, all you have is a bucket full of minnows. But if you catch one whale, it can sink your whole ship. After a sales seminar in Tampa not long ago, a salesperson wrote to me and told me that she had begun applying these techniques immediately. Within 1 week, she closed a sale that represented 58% of her quota for the entire year. She was absolutely astonished at what a difference it made when she concentrated all of her energies on her largest potential customer. What customers or markets could be capable of buying enormous quantities of what you sell? Where are they? And how can you approach them? Conduct intensive market analysis. You could use your creativity to identify your biggest and best sales opportunities. This requires the regular and repeated use of focused questions like these. Who exactly is your customer? Make a list of all the qualities and characteristics that your ideal customer would have. What would be his or her age, education, occupation, income level, experiences, attitude, or need. The greater clarity you have in identifying your ideal customer, the easier it will be for you to find more of these customers to talk to. Who buys your product or service right now? Apply the 80-20 rule. Who are the 20% of your customers who represent 80% of your business? What do they have in common? How could you find more customers just like the very best customers you serve today? Who will be your future customers? Markets are continually changing, and you must change as well. Project ahead 5 years. Based on current trends, who are likely to be your best customers at that time? What are the trends in your business and in your market? What changes are taking place that may force you to change the way you sell or the people to whom you sell? In what direction is your market moving? How are your customers changing? What new markets might there be for your product or service? Who else could benefit from your areas of specialization and differentiation that you have not yet reached? Why does your customer buy? What advantages or benefits does he perceive in purchasing your product or service? Of everything that you offer to a customer, what parts of your product or service does your customer most appreciate and compliment? What are the hot buttons that cause your customers to buy? You must know the answers to these questions. Who or what is your competitor? Who are your major and minor competitors? What benefits do your prospective customers see in buying from your competitors? How could you offset these perceived benefits? How could you position yourself in such a way that people would buy from you rather than from your competitors? This is often the key to breaking open the entire market. When companies position themselves properly against their competitors, their sales often increase by hundreds of percent. Apple versus Microsoft. Apple Computer was the first company to crack the market for the small personal or business computer. And look at them now. They came out of the gate with a user-friendly personal computer and immediately took the lead in the market, selling hundreds of thousands of Apple I's and Apple II's, and now iPods, iPhones, and iPads. Microsoft entered the market after Apple, determined to catch up and surpass Apple's sales volume. But instead of developing computers, Microsoft focused on software, on the operating systems, and encouraged other software developers to develop programs compatible with theirs. The strategies of the two companies were completely different. Apple was determined to keep all its operating codes and hardware proprietary so that it could charge higher prices and make higher profits. At its peak, Apple was earning 49% net profit on sales, an incredible amount. A different strategy. Microsoft, under Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer, decided to offset the competitive advantage of Apple's user-friendly software by opening up its codes to software developers worldwide. Simultaneously, with each new advance in technology, Microsoft lowered the price of its MS-DOS operating system. Rather than focusing on high profits per individual sale, Microsoft focused on volume sales with lower profit per sale, but a far greater number of sales. By the time the dust had settled, back in the 90s, Microsoft controlled 90% of the global PC market. After becoming a runaway success story, and before becoming a runaway success story again, Apple was surpassed in the market and did not catch up for many years. By 2004, Apple's market share was down to 3%, even though its products are judged by many people to be technologically superior to those of Microsoft. What or who is your competitor, and how are you going to position your products against them? Ignorance can be the problem. In some cases, your major competitor is not another company, it is ignorance. Customers simply do not know your product is available. It may be new. It may not be well known. It may not be well advertised. Sometimes the greatest obstacle you have to overcome is unawareness of what your product can do for a customer. In strategic selling, you are always competing against someone or something. Whatever you are selling, there is an alternative available in your market. What you have to find out is what your prospective customers are considering, and then position yourself in such a way that your customers conclude that your offering is superior to anything else available. Selling in some respects is similar to warfare. Decisions in warfare are always made in consideration of what the enemy is doing or likely to do. Many of your most crucial decisions in selling will be determined by what your competitors are doing or what they are likely to do. What is your competitive advantage? This is your area of differentiation that we discussed earlier. In what way do you have an advantage over your competitors? How and why are you superior? As Jack Welch of General Electric once said, if you don't have competitive advantage, don't compete. Your competitive advantage is invariably the most important reason that a customer would choose your product over that of your competitor. Fully understanding the nature of your competitive advantage is the key to developing an effective and creative sales presentation. You should be so clear about the competitive advantage of your product or service that someone could wake you up at 3 in the morning, shake you and ask, "Why is your product better than anybody else's?" And you should answer this question right out of a sound sleep. Your area of superiority. Customers buy a particular product or service because they feel that it is superior in some way to anything else available. Sometimes it is lower price. Sometimes it is a particular feature or benefit. Sometimes it is because they like the salesperson better than the representative of another company. Sometimes the competitive advantage is that you are the first person who has explained to them how much they could improve their lives or work with your product. Whatever it is, the customer always chooses what he considers to be the very best available under the circumstances. Demonstrate to the customer that your product or service fits that description. Same old, same old. Not long ago, a young man came up to me at one of my seminars. He needed advice. He worked for one of 10 companies that sold electrical supplies to contractors in the local market. But all of the suppliers bought their products from the same manufacturers and sold them at very much the same prices to the same customers. On top of this, the market for electrical products was depressed at that time. He asked me, under these circumstances, how can I develop a unique selling feature or a competitive advantage? I explained to him that it was not really possible. Based on what he had told me, he was selling something that anyone could buy somewhere else at the same price and quality and on the same terms. His products had no unique selling features. In a depressed market, there was less business for everyone, including himself. There was very little future in his industry at that time. Make your product special in some way. One of the most creative things you can do is to offer a product or service that is special in some way. It offers benefits that customers are willing to pay for that are not available anywhere else. If what you are offering is a Me Too product, the only way you can sell more is by working longer and harder, by seeing more prospective customers, and by trusting in the law of averages. But there's no long-term future unless your product is unique and different in some way from any other product available. Put your best foot forward. In creative selling, you always lead with the most important benefit that your product or service can offer your customer in comparison with your competitors. This becomes the key factor in your advertising, prospecting, and sales activities. When you meet a prospect who really wants the special benefits that only your product can offer, it is easy to make the sale. Large companies spend an enormous amount of time and money to build a reputation for their unique selling propositions. When IBM was the biggest computer company in the world, it had an extraordinary reputation for customer service. The company invested more than $1 billion a year giving its customers fast, dependable service whenever an IBM product broke down. For major customers with large computer installations, IBM would often fly in several specialists from different parts of the world, all within 24 hours, to get a computer system up and running again. IBM's reputation for quality service made it an industrial leader worldwide. Interestingly, at no time did IBM ever have a better, faster, or cheaper product than its competitors. Other companies had superior products at lower prices with more features. IBM did not even attempt to lead the field with state-of-the-art equipment. They focused instead on their reputation for service and support. This competitive advantage enabled them to become the most successful company of its kind in the world. It takes your breath away. Some years ago, the distributors of Smirnoff vodka attempted to introduce Smirnoff to the market in the United States. They had little success. At that time, vodka was considered not only a foreign drink, but a Russian foreign drink. The Cold War was on, and Americans were not particularly favorable to any Russian products, especially a new form of liquor. The Smirnoff distributors spent an enormous amount of money attempting to position Smirnoff vodka as a superior choice to whiskey, scotch, gin, rum, and other liquors, but to no avail. Finally, they identified the unique selling feature, USF, of Smirnoff. After drinking Smirnoff, no one could smell it on your breath. They instantly created an advertising campaign around this unique selling feature with 2 lines. Smirnoff, it takes your breath away. And Smirnoff, it leaves you breathless. In no time at all, Smirnoff became a $50 million product and eventually a $500 million and $1 billion product. It broke the market open for vodka sales, which are now well in excess of several $billion a year. By identifying the competitive advantage of the beverage that people could drink at lunch without folks back in the office knowing, they were able to create a great marketing success. How could you describe or position your product in a similar way? What is your unique selling proposition? Who are your non-customers? Who are the people who could use your product or service but buy neither from you nor from your competitors? These are people who are not even in the market at all. In reality, the non-customers are the greatest untapped market for your products or services. If you can identify them and find a way to get through to them, you can often create sales where no sales exist and where there is little competition or price resistance. A huge untapped market. Often these people are the late adapters in the market, those who wait until a new product or service has been tested and proven by the majority of buyers before they risk buying. When a company finds a way to tap into this huge late adapter market of non-customers, it can often surpass all of its competitors.